Hi folks, this is NixOS number 64, and today I'm going to use Dev, it says Devenv. I'm going to use Devenv. That is incorrect. I'll change that. Uh, to set up a Python development environment. Um, for the record, this script over on the left-hand side that's entitled NixOS 64, a link to it will be available in the video description. Devenv is a project created by Domen Kozar. There should be an accent on one of the letters in his last name, but I'm an American. I'm sorry. Sorry, Domen. Uh, Domen also runs the Cachix Nix caching service, which I've talked about in the past in another video. Devenv is unlike a lot of things that I've talked about, in these videos. Uh, it is not a tool for Nix. It's a tool that wraps Nix. So I don't think it's you still need to have some Nix knowledge to use it, but it's a tool that uses Nix to try to make it possible to get a developer up and running quickly, or teams of developers up and running quickly. And the way it does that is if you distribute a set of files to a given developer, one of your teammates or all your teammates, whatever, hopefully once that person runs one or two commands, he will be set up in a development environment on his own system. And by that, what I mean is that it will start all the required services, like, a database or web server, your miserable microservice crap, all that stuff, as well as the application you're working on, and allow whoever, you or another developer, to use his own tools in his normal environment to edit the code and make changes to it. This is not a container thing or some foreign editing service or something. And if the Devenv code is written correctly, the the obvious benefit is the developer doesn't need to go through some checklist of fiddly chores to get set up, start writing and testing code in a working environment. I gotta say, as a longtime developer, there's nothing more infuriating than I'm also a contractor consultant, and I must say there is nothing more infuriating than going into an environment where no one has any scripts to create a development environment. It's just like some wiki that's from 1967 or something. So, in general, whether you use Devenv or not, I suggest that for obvious reasons that you automate the creation of development environments. But Devenv is really, really sort of unique way to do this. I like it a lot. So one of the things about Nix itself, which Devenv is based on, is that it's cross-platform, and it's cross-platform to Mac OS and Linux. And so you can run Nix on Mac OS, and you can run Nix on basically any Linux distribution you want. And due to this, and because Devenv wraps Nix and uses Nix to do its jobs, it's theoretically practical. I haven't tried this, but I can't imagine any reason you couldn't do this, to use the same set of configuration files for both people who want to develop on Mac OS and people who want to develop on Linux, and even on Windows. If you run WSL, it would work. So in particular, you don't need to use NixOS to run Devenv at all. I'm happening to use NixOS, but it's incidental to this. It also doesn't make you edit, in some foreign environment. Like, a lot of times people will, they will make some golden image of some Ubuntu thing or something and give it to you and tell you to use that to edit the code or something like that. If you use it this way, you just use whoever's writing the code can use their normal tools, whether it's Mac OS or Linux or Windows. So as long as the deployment target is Linux, your developers can use whatever they like, and Devenv is a good tool. So Devenv uses the concept of a shell to do its magic. We'll see that in a second. When a developer, sort of invokes a command to enter a shell, all the support libraries, software required to run the application, databases, languages, all that crap gets installed. And then in a second step, developer sort of ups the environment. It's called Devenv up. All the required services that were mentioned in the configuration are configured and started. And when the developer is finished, he shuts down the development environment. The services are stopped. And through the magic of Nix, all these support libraries and services and all the, you know, shared libraries and all that stuff, it's all isolated from the host system. So it's not going to make any changes to your system that are going to hose something else, you know, your iCal or whatever. So the Devenv configuration, for me anyway, the way I used it in NixOS was mostly Nix code. Domen has tried to make it possible to configure some of it via YAML. I am sympathetic to this effort because Nix language is scary, but it's sort of in this place now where I think you're not going to be able to get around needing to know some Nix in order to use it. I mean, in anger anyway, and probably never will be in a place like that. So I'm not sure of the utility of the YAML stuff, but whatever. That's Domen's deal. But it's all just files in either case, and of course, those files can be version controlled, and they can be changed over time to, you know, let's say, you know, you've added another database, you know, different kind of database, you know, GraphSQL or something or whatever. As a dependency, you can change the Nix files or the Devenv files, and check that in version control and tell the developer, hey, pull the configuration changes, and rerun the commands that got him up and going in the first place. He doesn't need to know anything different. There's no, you know, manual stuff happening. He just reruns the thing that gets him the shell. Devenv has support for many languages. You can go look at it on the website. I'm going to concentrate in this video on Python, and I'm also likely inadvisably, at least for instructional purposes, also going to configure it using a flake. I said NixOS here, but what I meant was a flake. I'm going to configure it to using a flake instead of the other documented ways, which I mentioned, which involve YAML and other stuff. So the way I'm actually using Devenv, it's purely Nix. There's no other stuff in there. Devenv also purportedly allows you to like containerize the environment. So you could, in theory anyway, you know, do all your development in it and then push a button and have that go to production. I guess that's the intent. I'm not sure how realistic that is, but I haven't tried it. So it also has a bunch of hooks that let you sort of normalize the way people run tests and stuff. I'm not going to talk about this stuff either. I haven't tried any of this stuff, but it is there. I have a small demo here, and it's a web app that depends on a database. So like it's not complex at all, but it would take a while to get set up, you know, manually. So we'll do it here. For the purposes of this, like I said, I'm using a flake to configure Devenv, and in order to do that, I had to add this little bit of hair to my Nix configuration. Of course, anyone who's already running in Flakes mode already has it in there. Just telling you, if you're on NixOS and you're not running in Flakes mode, you have to put that crap in there and run NixOS rebuild switch, and then you'll be able to use Flakes. So once that's done, you can use the Flakes mode of Devenv to generate a project from a template. And the way that this works is we're just going to make a temporary directory here, and Nix Flake has this. That's we needed to do this configuration here up here. This experimental features Nix command flakes up here because we're using Nix Flake in our demo here. It has a feature that will pull down a template from, you know, somebody's Git repository, and Domen has written this template, and the template files get written to whatever current directory, and so that's why I made the temporary directory right here. So at this point, let's take a look at the lock file, or sorry, the Nix file it created. see, NixOS. What was I doing? Yeah, Devenv test. Of course. Okay. It is some Nix. It is Nix Flake, and it's got some boilerplate here, but the meat of it is all inside of this modules thing here. Oh, I think I might have. Oh, okay, I think I okay. Yep, it works. This modules thing tells Devenv which packages it should install, what kind of commands it should run when we enter the shell, and what kind of processes we should start in the background. There's a bunch of other options. This is the simplest possible shell. So, but the way we run any Devenv shell is we cd the directory that has the flake in it here, and we run nix develop impure like that. And if you care why it's impure, you can go read the Devenv website. It's explanation of it there. Okay, so we're now in a Devenv shell, and it ran, it installed the hello package, which means the hello command is on our path like that. And it actually ran hello when we entered the shell. And when we run devenv up, which is sort of the second stage of activating the development environment, the Nix develop impure gets all the software installed, and then devenv up actually starts the services. So it's got a service in it that it actually doesn't keep running. It just runs hello and then stops. But that's the basics of how, the pattern is Nix develop impure, devenv up, press Control C, make some changes to the configuration file again, run run Nix develop impure, et cetera, rinse, repeat until you get it right. So that is the process of making one of these things. So the reason I was confused about this line here, because it wasn't in the template, but I submitted a pull request. I think Domen, in the meantime, merged it. So it was broken. So hopefully it won't be broken for you. Hello world's nice. It's nice to be said hello to, but in reality, not very useful. So let's put some real code in the Flake.Nix. I've come up with a tiny little web application. It's the dumbest possible web application. All it does is it runs Postgres, and it runs the web app, and the web app calls into Postgres to select its version number. That's it, and then we display it on a HTML page. So this obviously depends on a running Postgres database. So we need Postgres installed, we need our web app framework stuff installed, and all of its dependencies. So we're going to change the Flake file. So we install and configure Postgres. We're going to install a version of Python, such everybody can use the same version of Python. You can conscript people into using the same Python via the Devenv environment. And then we create a Python virtual environment in which to install the web app. We install the web app into the virtual environment. And when the development environment is started, when we do devenv up, the web app and the Postgres will start, and we'll be able to contact it through the web. So I have the whole Flake here, but I think what I like to do is, I'm going to change this devenv test in place to more closely match this, but I think I'm going to do it piece by piece so we can see what's happening. And I'm sure we'll see some real-time errors as I forget to copy things over. But the first thing we want to do is just sort of take a look at this. Mix packages, systems URL. Mix package. Okay. So if we want to use the Devenv has this concept of languages, and if you use a language in your configuration, as we're going to do down here, language.python, you must put this in here. If you don't, it's not a big deal. It won't fail inscrutably. It'll tell you, yeah, you gotta put that in there in order for that to work. But so we're gonna put that in there like that. Much of it is you know, this boilerplate here remains the same. The Nix config for the cachex stuff and for each system and all that stuff. We really just care about the stuff that is inside of dev shells here, I think. Yeah. Well, the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to change the modules in a second. We'll talk about Python, but I'm going to cause this to install Postgres here. So we can just take this line out of here, copy it in there, and do this. And what that will cause to happen is it will install Postgres. So let's try it just with that. We're not gonna change anything else. So okay, exit out. Let's develop in pure. Okay. So now I'm in the configuration. Did it actually install Postgres? I think it might need to be referred to actually install it, but that's a Nix thing. So all right, maybe I did this the wrong way around. But put it this way, it'll get used. So now we can go ahead and install Python in here. Or Python's already installed in the system, but we're going to use a Python that is, you know, just for this project. It's special. And inside we also tell it to create a virtual environment where it's going to install our software, and it's going to create a virtual environment and activate the virtual environment when we go into the shell. Okay, I put that in there. Let's see what happens. Okay, now if I run Python, it is indeed 3.11.3. And we are inside a virtual environment. You see that Devenv up there? Telling us we're in a virtual environment. By the way, if you don't actually want to use bash in here, you can just run your favorite shell. Like I use eShell. So that just works. You know, no big deal. You know, it gets rid of the little flags that tell you you're in Devenv and VM, but I don't care. I would know that anyway. So anyway, all right. So we have Postgres installed. We got Python installed. Now let's see about our project, our web app. So I have this web app already over here. OS Devenv videos Devenv my proj. I'm going to copy that to here. Okay. And at that point, I should be able to install my proj by virtue of this enter shell thing in here. When we start the project, or we start the Devenv shell, it will run pip install and make it editable inside of the current directory. So I'm sure there's a way to actually make this absolute somehow, but I haven't figured it out quite yet. Get rid of the other enter shell. Okay, so we installed Python, we installed Postgres. Now we're going to install the web app that I created. It's in the same directory as the flake that is related to Devenv. So if I do Devenv, Nix develop pure. Try to install my stuff. Okay, so it had failure. It needs psychopg2, and psychopg2 doesn't have a release that has a binary in it on the website, or maybe it does. Oh, it does. No, it doesn't have a binary release on the website, and I don't have GCC in the shell, so it's not going to try to build it. It's trying to build it, but it just can't. It can't find GCC to do that. So, but we can move around. We can get around this by virtue of using the Nix packaging of psychopg2. So we put that inside of this. Instead of packages hello, we have packages dot Python 3.11 packages That's Psycho 52 packages. Like that. And I'm not sure I think I'm actually doing this slightly incorrectly because I think instead of packages here, it should be consulting something in Domen's thing, but it works either way. So it's okay by me that it's slightly wrong. But the virtual environment that it sets up actually is one of those virtual environments that consults its real Python's site packages. So anything that gets installed into the real Python site packages will be usable in the virtual environment. And the other nice thing about it is that with this languages feature, it's not like we're not using the system Python. This is its own Python just for us. This languages Python thing. Nothing else is going to go in there. Nothing involving any other project. This is only for this, related to this my project. So now that we've done that, let's try to do the needful. Rebuild the virtual environment. The nice thing about it is, like, you don't really need to know. You don't need to care what it's doing. It could blow everything away and start over again, but it's all described here in this declarative way, so that I'm not worried about what it's doing. I just run that command again. It does it again. It's great. Okay, so it actually worked. It got all our stuff installed. That's good. Is there anything else I need to do in here? Okay. Oh, right. So I could do this by hand. If I'm in the shell right now, I can run bin pserv. Well, actually, it's a little tricky to do by hand because you have to go into this devenv state venv thing, bin pserv. My proj, called development any. So I can start my web app by hand in here if I want to, but there's a easier way to get this stuff working, which is to just tell it, instead of processes run hello, we want it to run my web app when it starts. Sorry, processes my app exec. It's not processes run. Okay. Is it processes my app? Is that right? Yeah. Okay. So now, when I get out of Devenv, I'm not sure. I guess it needs to rebuild it. Is that right? Forget it. Oh, I put too many semicolons in. Cool. Now, the development environment is completely set up now. It's usable because we've installed all the requirements it needs, I think. So if I do, now the next step is running the processes, both the database server and the web app. And the way you do that is you do devenv up. And I guess it probably installs Postgres now because it didn't require it before. Yep. Okay. I started my web app and it started Postgres. And we created an initial database called MyDB. I don't actually use it in my web app, but you can create an additional database. And you can put some settings in about how it should listen for connections. We're using it over in a Unix socket. So now at this point, I should be able to go to my web app and see the page. Local host. That's correct. Yep. And there it is. It's talking to Postgres. Web app's talking to Postgres. I know it's talking to Postgres because it uses a select command in order to get this string. Here it's not just like getting it off of the library or something. So, great. Now that we're inside the shell and our thing is running, in order to shut down the services, all we do is press Control C. We're done. And as soon as we exit the shell, we're back in a normal environment again. Right? Get back in, just do it over and over. Rinse and repeat. Same commands over and over. And this is sort of the genius of this pattern, which is that no one needs to think about anything. The only person that needs to think about anything is the person putting the stuff in the Nix file. And as long as they don't, as long as they know what they're doing, you can make the change to the Nix file, check it into version control, have all your teammates check it out, and tell them, okay, you just need to run Nix develop again, and they do, and then they're back. You might have added 100 databases, who knows, right? Whatever, but they don't care. They're not going to worry about it so much. It's not a one-time setup script. It's a repeating process pattern sort of thing. So why not use pure Nix instead of Devenv? Nix, what's printed on the tin for Nix is a good distribution for developers, and it makes it easy to create repeatable development environments. But Chris, isn't that what Devenv's doing? Well, yes. And to be honest, I'm not sure. I've never really used Nix Bear. I've used NixOS a lot. I've never really used Nix Bear in Anger. I haven't tried it, but I can imagine that emulating the stuff like these services and the languages and the processes and inside of a bare Nix flake file would be even a NixOS flake file would be tricky. So I imagine it's even trickier in bare NixOS. But in general, I think the question might be about my pay grade, because this works. It works really well. If it exists, if I were to be in charge of the development team, I would certainly make them use it. Anyway, appreciate you watching, and I hope it helped.